What's up, legends, and welcome back to another Unmatched Slings and Arrows First Impressions video. This one is going to be about Hamlet, and please let me know which Hamlet-related baked goods pun you like better in the comments. Are you team to be baked or not be baked, or team beeflet? So yeah, starting off on a great note here. In case you are unfamiliar with this video format, a First Impressions video is where I give my first impressions, my initial thoughts on a character after a brief amount of plays as and against them, and give a prediction on how good they're going to be. We'll talk about other cards, and several years from now, down the line, we will return and we will see how horribly wrong I was. This is probably a very anticipated character from the reveals so far, just because I don't think his ability has been revealed until today when the embargo is lifted, and that drastically changes how this character works. Quick shout out to the true duality of man. This character, like the vibes, the art, the blue, the red, the skull, they always knock the art out of the park, but this set is no exception. Let's talk about the stats and ability. Hamlet is a 15 health melee fighter, move value of 2. He has one sidekick with 2 names. That's 2 for the price of 1. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. Am I going to remember that? Probably not. They are melee as well, with 6 health. His ability is The Question. At the start of your turn, choose to be or not to be. That is represented by a token reminiscent of Big Alice, or Jekyll and Hyde will say to be, not to be on them. Very cool component. Anyways, at the start of your turn, you'll choose one. If you choose not to be, deal 2 damage to one of your fighters. And then, while in 2B mode, while you're being dude, whenever you maneuver, you draw 1 additional card. That's 2 cards for the price of 1. And not to be, meaning that you have dealt 2 damage to one of your fighters. You add 2 value to the value of Hamlet's attacks, which is kind of like a mini Angry Achilles. It's almost like Patroclus doing self-damage to himself, so Achilles gets +2 on the next attack, is kind of what I would relate that to, except obviously in order to keep striking big as Hamlet, you have to keep dealing 2 damage to your characters. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern have 6 health, so that's potentially 3 free abilities. Meaning that the damage you deal with not to be comes from your sidekick and not your hero, to buff up your hero, because not to be is Hamlet only. But over time, when either your sidekick is dead or you need to deal the damage to Hamlet, that's a heavy price to pay. And if you are dealing yourself 2 damage, getting the +2 attack, you really want to be dealing like 3 or more damage when you attack. Otherwise, there's like not a good health trade. And if you are behind on health, especially, taking 2 damage to deal 2 damage is not going to get you ahead or win you the game. Let's talk about some specific rules, just in case. It says Hamlet is eternally confounded by the question. Love that, period. It should just be that. That's the only rule. At the start of your turn, you'll choose, and if you choose not to be, immediately deal 2 damage. Draw an additional card for each maneuver action when to be and not to be. Hamlet only gets +2. Your sidekick does not get the bonus. And it says here, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are a single fighter, despite having 2 names. So hopefully that clears up any confusion. That is ripped right from the rulebook, so if you have any problems, I don't know, my name's not in the back of that one. Anyways, let's talk about some of the cards. Starting with the Hamlet specific cards, we have Cruel to Be Kind, which I believe Zero Skater 12 revealed previously, with a very high effort reveal, if I do add myself. It is a Hamlet only, 2 value attack. It's John catching unintentional shade for being busy. Love you, Johnny. Hamlet only, 2 value attack. Boost value of 4. 2 copies. It says, during combat, you may boost this card. So this is like a second shot, but I'm still here. The Muldoon version, not the Medusa version. But when you're not to be, it's a base value 4. Boosting from a 4, like Miss Marvel, is really good. You could also boost with this card again to make it an 8. It does kind of have the Muldoon problem of only having 2 second shots and both having a high boost value, which means you want to boost one with the other. But if you do that, that means you can't boost it again since you don't have any more second shots. Is it going to be worth it with this card to make it an 8? Maybe. But having 2 of these available at your disposal, probably a lot of 3s, as we'll see, meaning you can very easily get to 7, is so far a great start to a deck that needs damage output in order to break even, if you will. The next card is The Rest is Silence. So we're going from Zero's worst reveal to Zero's best reveal. This is not a Hamlet first impressions video. This is a let's critique the card reveals of my peers. Hamlet only, 2 value, block, 3 value boost, 2 copies. After combat, end the turn. So this is like Trash Talk from Luke Cage's deck, except it doesn't have the cancel on it, and it does not have the passive reduce damage taken by 2 effect from Luke's ability. So it is a 2 value, end the turn, which could be a cancel, because this is defensive. Any offensive after combat effects will not happen since the turn is over. Any after attack effects, such as Robin Hood, will not happen because the turn is over. However, end of turn things like T-Rex, Moon Knight form switching, Bigfoot, and Bruce Lee will still happen. Might be forgetting one. There's 50 characters in this game. You have 2 copies of this. This is a very powerful card because you want to limit your opponent's activities, especially because you are potentially going to be playing a very short game. Drawing extra cards on your maneuver means you'll go through your deck very quickly. Dealing 2 damage to one of your fighters means your health will deplete very quickly, and so you want to be able to kill your opponent as quickly as possible. This helps because it stops your opponent from attacking you potentially multiple times on their turn. If they first action attack you, you can silence them. They lose an action, and that can be very good for turning the tide because they don't get a chance to draw additional cards. They don't get a chance to hurt you further. Very, very powerful effect. The one caveat is it is a 2 value block, but I think you're kind of banking on the ending the turn to preserve you more health or allow you to deal more damage in other ways. The next card is Outrageous Fortune, which is the card I got to reveal in spectacular fashion. 1 value, Hamlet only, versatile. Boost value of 2, 2 copies. During combat, discard the top card of your deck. Add its boost value to this card's value. After combat, if you lost the combat, return the card you discarded to your hand. So, this functions as like a pretty solid block, but now with the added context of Hamlet's ability, as an attack, it starts as a base value of 3, and then you're essentially blind boosting the card, which you got some high boost value so far. So this could like pretty reliably be a 5, maybe even a 6, and that is phenomenal as an attack. If you whiff, you draw 1 or something, or on defense your opponent just hits you really hard, you'll get the card back that you discarded, which is nice. I wouldn't necessarily call that recursion because like you're discarding the top card of your deck, maybe you get it back. But maybe with certain things such as the I want to say the Great Zaro, the Great Zazoom. I can't remember what the fortune teller from Navy Pier is called, but this has synergy with that. Moon Knights, that's why I always win. Can screw you up with this. Couple niche interactions there, but 2 copies. Probably not the worst thing in the world if you discard some good cards, because at least you won't be taking damage, or you'll be dealing a bunch of damage as well. The next card is Blood Will Have Blood. 2 value, Hamlet only, versatile, boost value of 2, 3 copies. After combat, if Hamlet took damage this turn, deal 1 damage to the opposing fighter. So, if you are on offense, it's your turn. You could deal Hamlet 2 damage with Not To Be, give him 2 value to his attacks, and then you could attack with this card. It would be a 4 value attack, and because you took damage, you would deal 1 damage to the opposing fighter. Is that a worthy trade? Taking 2 for a 4, and then semi-guaranteeing 1 at the end does not really seem too good, because if they block, they're probably going to block with at least a 3 if you're angry or not being. You're probably not going to deal that much damage with this card, like value-wise. Best case scenario, they play like a 3. So if they're playing a 2, they're probably playing a feint. They're playing a 3, you deal 1 damage over the top, and then you deal 1 damage with the after combat effect, which is like an even trade, which is not great. I see this card much better as a block, where you're hoping your opponent hits over the top, which it's a 2 value block, so they probably will. In which case, after combat, because the after combat triggers after the math part of the combat is figured out and the damage is dealt, you'll probably take damage when you block with this and deal 1 back. Which, for a 15 health character that will be constantly damaging himself, blocking for 2 constantly does not really seem like a great thing to do. This is also a boost value of 1, so this is one of the whiffs for Outrageous Regroup, and you have 3 copies of it. I am not a fan of this card particularly, but I would see its practicality in dealing with 1 health sidekicks. And just kind of like, I would consider this more of like a bait attack almost. The next card is Method in the Madness. Oh boy, he's locked in for real. We have a Hamlet only scheme, boost value of 3, 3 copies. Put any number of cards in your hand on the bottom of your deck. Then draw up to that many cards, gain 1 action. So one of the main problems I think people will have with this character, once they see the ability, is they'll say, when you maneuver, draw 1 additional card. That's horrible for fatigue. You're going to go through your deck twice as fast. And then, if you want to avoid drawing cards, Not To Be, you're dealing damage. How am I supposed to play this character? Well, this is a big recovery method for that. Because generally, you're going to be drawing a bunch of cards and using card advantage to pressure your opponent. And if they ever try to hit you back, you just end their turn. You have more cards than them. You go angry, hit them big. You got a bunch of cards. You'll be able to respond when they attack you. Patterns like that. If your opponent is running away, however, this is a great little Uno reverse card, because you can be sitting there with a hand of 7 cards. Put 6 of them back. Keep a block card in your hand. And draw none. So effectively, you've just erased 3 maneuvers on a 2B turn. You put 6 cards on the bottom of your deck. You kept an insurance block in your hand. And now the opponent ran all the way across the map. You just run to the other side. Now they have initiative and they have to boost. It's stuff like that. So that is a pattern that you can use this card to create, which kind of forces your opponent into a lose-lose. They either engage you at severe hand disadvantage, or they run away and risk you doing a little reverse card and throwing a very lopsided initiative onto them. I do see the potential like Eye of Agamotto play, where if you just have a hand of like blocks or a hand of crap, put that on the bottom of your deck, draw all those cards back up, gain an action. That can be kind of like a great hand reset at the start of your turn. If you're going into a not to be turn and you have just poo-poo in your hand, you can just cycle it all through. And at least now you know that at the bottom of your deck, there is everything that you know. You can put it in any order, I believe. Put any number of cards in your hand on the bottom of your deck, which might lead to some analysis paralysis if you're choosing the order of the 6 cards to put on the bottom of your deck, but does it matter that much? Maybe not, especially against a character like Doctor Strange that'll shuffle your deck eventually. But super solid card, enables Hamlet to not be bonkers bad. And the next Hamlet scheme is the Ghost. That's a desktop wallpaper if I've ever seen one. Boost value of 1, not great, but 2 copies. It says choose 1. Hamlet recovers 2 health. Place Hamlet in any space in his zone and gain 1 action. So this is a great pass because it doesn't draw you cards and it recovers you 2 health. Or it is like a pure evil turn starter enabler. I basically see you using the top effect if you're in 2B and the bottom effect if you're in not to be. Added mobility, a little zone teleport. Fantastic. Gaining an action means that you can basically use this card, then have 2 actions to attack while you're angry. Great. And if not, Hamlet has 4 extra health, so he is a 19 HP fighter. Just to, I guess, circle back to the sidekicks. These guys are kind of useless. They don't have any sidekick specific cards. They exist purely as a meat shield, essentially. I just think that this character would be stupid good if he was a 21 health hero with no sidekick. At least now, like, having a sidekick gives you an interesting dynamic with like board positioning and stuff like that, and just doesn't give you a stupid high health total. So I believe that is why the sidekicks exist. So keep that in mind while we're finishing up his card stuff. To Sleep, Perchance to Dream is the next card, which I believe Zach, Darkblade 113, revealed in glorious poetic fashion. He always does a good job. Golf clap for that man. Hello, everyone, is my best impression of that. Anyways. Holy cow, that jawline. That smolder. Damn. Wow. And I guess the human's pretty good. Yeah. Nice skull. Alright. Anyways. This card is a 3 value any attack. Boost value of 2. 3 copies. And it says, after combat, if you won the combat, move the opposing fighter a number of spaces up to the amount of combat damage dealt. If you lost the combat, Hamlet recovers 1 health. So this is an any, so you can use it as your sidekick. Which might be nice because sometimes you want to lose the combat so that Hamlet gets the extra tick of health, which also might be a reason why you attack with this as Hamlet on a 2B turn. But it also functions as kind of like a swinging web kick on a not to be turn. You can attack with Hamlet. It is a 5, and then after combat, if you won the combat, you'll be able to yeet the opponent out of there. As a 5, probably only 1 or 2 spaces, but that's still kiting with advantage against a melee opponent. And on the off chance you lose it while you're angry, at least there's a little bit of I get a health back. Yeah, I think it's an alright card. Definitely not as good as some of the other stuff he has going on. Like this one. Uncertain Doom. Again, fantastic art. It's an any 2 value attack. This one actually has a little bit of utility coming from a sidekick. It is a 3 value boost, 3 copies. It says, during combat, if your opponent played a versatile card, ignore its value. Ignoring values is great. Ignoring values when your attack has +2 is even better. Because as Hamlet, this is a 4 value, potentially ignore. Think about the blue cards in the game. Some characters don't have that many. Like Buffy only has cartwheel kick. Sinbad doesn't have any blue cards. Medusa only has like hiss and slither. So like a lot of characters have like maybe like one or two signature block only cards, and the rest are versatiles. This is absolutely soul crushing in the matchups where a lot of the time they're relying on purples to block with. T-Rex is another matchup that comes to mind where they have the two pathetic one value blue cards and then 8 purples. And it's like, this is just a phenomenal card. 3 copies. It's crazy. Boost value of 3. Let's go. And on the off chance you want to catch your opponent off guard, you can always throw it from the sidekick or throw it on a 2B turn. But I think you have better options for more bait attacks like that. Although still, 2 value ignore, nothing to scoff at. If they play a black card, like a blue card, is it the end of the world? Not necessarily, but I think this card definitely opens up mind games for the blue versus purple. It makes your opponent kind of think a little bit more about what they block with instead of just saying, this card is a big number, let's throw it out. Love this card. Uncertain Doom. Very thematic name as well. The next card is also in line with this line of thinking. Nothing either good or bad. The sparkles really bring this card to life. Any block only, 2 value block, 1 value boost, another whiff for outrageous regroup, and 3 copies. And it says, after combat, if your opponent played a versatile card, deal 2 damage to the opposing fighter. So we see this theme of Hamlet punishing you for being versatile, which I really like the way they implemented that in this character. Nothing either good or bad wants your opponent to play a red card against them, which is, I mean, like it wants your opponent to play versatile because obviously you get the damage, but it kind of incentivizes your opponent to play red cards to avoid taking the damage on this, which when you combine both of them, Uncertain Doom means your opponent like wants to play blue cards. Nothing either good or bad means your opponent wants to play red cards. They have to play the purple cards eventually, and so I love the conflict that this card creates within your opponent when thinking about where they want to be punished. Do they want to take the 2 damage in retaliation for attacking with a versatile? Do they want to take 2, potentially 4 for blocking with a versatile? This card is another 2 value block for Hamlet, which is kind of not great. Defensively, Outrageous Fortune looks even better and better as we get down to the last couple cards. This card is not good if your opponent plays an attack card, because a lot of times the red specific cards are better attacks than the versatile, so you'll probably be taking more damage and not stopping any effect. But dealing 2 damage kind of acts like a point blank, almost like a weaker counterpunch. Doesn't have to be adjacent, so it works against ranged, and like if your opponent just plays like a regroup, this punishes bait attacks like there's no tomorrow. So these 2 cards existing within the same deck is phenomenal, because eventually they will have to play their versatile cards, and eventually they'll either meet nothing good or bad, or just something completely horrible and doomy. The next card is Maddening Insight. All insight is maddening, especially when it's Buffy ripping out your block and then pointing at you. But anyways, Unmatched Pawn, yay! I'll be here all week, people. Maddening Insight. Any value 0, or any 0 value block only, that is. 1 value boost, 2 copies. During combat, the value of this card is equal to the number of cards in your hand. After combat, if you won the combat, your opponent discards 1 card. So this card rewards you defensively for being in 2B a lot and having a nice beefy hand size. It is like a blue Fangirl or You Never Had Control, That's the Illusion, from Sattler and Miss Marvel's deck, reverse respectively. It's number of cards in your hand, which means when you're calculating this, do not include it in your hand size. If you have 7 cards, then play this. You have 6 cards now, so it's a 6 value block, which is good. Honestly, if this is 4 or higher, A++. And the discard upon winning the combat is also phenomenal, because it's kind of like The Rest is Silence, where it punishes your opponent for coming at you with like a hand disparity. And then, of course, certain schemes exist so that if they try to avoid the hand disparity, you just reverse it on them, and now they're stuck with initiative. I love the play patterns that this character creates, especially with like initiative and juggling that, bouncing that back and forth, to decisions on when your opponent wants to go in and attack, to decisions of like what type of card they want to use to attack. Phenomenal. The one thing I will say though, these cards god awful in adventures, because in adventures the enemies don't have versatile cards. They have reds and blues. Sometimes the card is the same for both, but they're not versatile, which means these are just not great. I feel like Hamlet's other stuff is like decent in adventures, just because card draw is phenomenal in adventures, and of course being able to deal 2 damage, 2 extra damage on your attacks is also good. But these 2 cards specifically are not good in adventures. I found out the hard way. The next card is the Readiness is All. 2 value, versatile any, boost value of 2 copies. After combat, place one of the fighters in the combat in any space. They cannot leave that space this turn. So this is what I foresee as another 2 value Hamlet block, which is a little concerning with how many of those we have so far, but you do have like a 6 potentially with a discard. So I guess it all evens out, even though they are a little extreme in terms of difference in goodness. How I would use this card is if I'm getting attacked by a melee character, I would just put them in a different space adjacent to me. By a ranged character, I'm bringing them nice and close, and they're not allowed to leave the space that turn, which means that I'm going to start my turn with them right next to me, and I'm going to wallop them. I'm going to not be all over them. You could also, if you are doing the reverse initiative play, warp them all the way over the map, and then you have like a turn of freedom and more running away. But super useful card. You probably only need 2 copies, but I really appreciate how much mobility Hamlet has in terms of setting up attacks, setting up turns where he can get multiple attacks in with Not to Be, because if he gets stuck in the pattern of Not to Be, take 2 damage, maneuver, attack, he's going to die because you're not dealing the damage that you're spending on yourself. You're not, like, the damage you're putting on yourself is kind of like an investment. You'd like to get a little bit more than your money's worth than what you put in. And if you're just dealing 2 to, or taking 2 to deal 2, or less than that, you're going to lose very quickly. So I appreciate these setup cards that they gave his kit as to not sputter out in that department. And the last card is the Plays the Thing. The Plays the Thing. I forgot. I'll do a little bit of a self-report here. I forgot what play Hamlet is from. Hint. It's named after him. And when I saw this card, I was like, oh, they're calling it the play because they don't want to name the play. Because if you say the name of the Scottish play, I don't know, like someone comes out of your closet at night and like stabs you. But Hamlet is not from that play. Hamlet is from Hamlet. And I had that realization in a Wendy's in the middle of Ohio. I'm not cultured in Shakespeare at all. It was a little bit of a brain fart, and I forgot that Hamlet was a play. I was like, yeah, he's the main character in Macbeth, right? And they were like, what? What did you say, you moron? Anyways, the play's the thing. We're at 30 minutes. Great. I'm really trying to keep these as short as possible. They're getting out of hand, but sub 35 I think we can definitely do for this one. It is a 3-value, versatile any. He's got a little Ratatouille guy on his head. A boost value of 2, 3 copies. It says, after combat, your opponent discards 1 random card. If you won the combat, Hamlet recovers health equal to its boost value. So, this is a non-2 value block. Fantastic. It also has a random discard, which is phenomenal. You also have 3 of them, which is phenomenal. The random discard isn't dependent on you winning the combat or anything, which is awesome. There is a combat victory dependent health recovery, and so that's kind of like the icing on the cake. If this card just said your opponent discards 1 random card, you'd play it and you'd be happy. But now that it has that stipulation of if you win the combat, you get health back, that's also phenomenal, because every time you get 2 health back, that's just another turn for popping the question. Are you going to win the combat on defense with a 3-value versatile? Maybe not. But on offense, it could potentially be a 5. And that is a lot more of a guaranteed victory almost. However, I believe the effect is a lot better on defense, because when your opponent has to discard a card on their turn, they have less time to react to the loss of resources. If they're maneuvering in and hitting you on their turn, 2 actions, and you play this and they discard a card, now it's your turn. That is a lot better of a situation than you attacking them, discarding, and now it's their turn and they can retreat if they need to. With maddening insight and plays the thing, you have potentially 5 discards, which is really cool for a character that can draw cards and push aggression and be super aggressive. This character is super interesting. Mechanically simple. There really isn't too much going on here in terms of complexity, but the way the elements of the deck interact with the foundations of the game is fascinating. I love that they made a simple character that has a very surprising amount of depth. It's like a kiddie pool that you can cannonball into. It's awesome. Yeah. How good do I think this character is going to be? I think figuring out the play pattern of how to not get fatigued is going to be super important. But once you do that, I think that he will be a semi-reliable heavy hitter. The flexibility to recover your hand up and draw cards, and also he's got a decent amount of healing if things go right. Decent amount of discards. I think he can be probably a high B is his ceiling. The low blocks are a little concerning, but ideally you're using the advantages you get from the 2-value blocks to overcome the damage that you're taking and use them to close out the game. So I think this character is much better than he looks from a gameplay and a mechanic standpoint. And hopefully me going through all the cards and talking about some of the intricacies helped you get that. But love this character, love the vibes of this character. I'm excited to see what he can do. So anyways, those are my first impressions on Hamlet. I'm not super big on this guy, but competitively, but I think he's going to be super fun to play as. Let me know your thoughts on this guy. Let me know if your team Hamlet, if your team Rosencrantz or team Guildstern, if your team Beeflet or team To Be Baked. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Look at the link in the description in case you're interested in getting this set. I'm supposed to say that at the beginning, but I don't know. It's at the top of the description, so I'm pretty sure you'll be able to see it without hitting the down button, at least on desktop. All right, anyways, Let's go. Whew. Hamlet. Forever. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and to yeet or not to yeet.